Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Conversations with Shusara. And tonight's going to be so I always try to find questions. Either it's things that come up during the week that maybe I've been questioning, or you see we have our lightning rounds with Shusara, where we go through quotes. And so this week, I actually Googled questions that you would ask a spiritual guide. And I came up with a very interesting page, but the questions were actually very relevant. I will say the page was a Christian page, but they were still relevant questions that you might ask someone like Shusara. So I will get to the first one, which is, the question was, why is there evil in the world? And I thought this would be a good one because, even though as seekers, it's like everything, God is in everything, you are God. And then you do see things in the world where sometimes it's a little hard.
Sure.
To really say, I can see the innocence in that, or, they're God too. So I thought that would be a good question for people.
Okay. Why is there evil in the world? Because here it can't be any other way. Since this is a polarized projection of consciousness, if there is the divine, there has to be the direct opposite of that, which would be evil. So there's your simple answer. It isn't hard to see the innocence in all of it at a certain point, because that's all you see. But while the story is all very real for people, yes, it's incredibly difficult. We look at the world and we just don't understand why certain people do the things that they do and make the choices that they make. Mm-hmm. And in this level of, out picturing of consciousness, there are things going on that, you can think, you hear it spoken of in so many different ways. Like there are certain souls who have chosen, not to follow the light and to take another path. And, really it's basically just consciousness that fell into a state of perceived separation. And then from that space, you have, remember the ego plays all the roles. So it plays the victim and it plays the savior and it plays the perpetrator. And so you will have certain individuals who, from that victim place, it's like, if you think of it this way, if you've been victimized, okay, let's look at it this way. I like to use dogs because it's a good representation of how a human would be in the same situation. So a dog loves its owner, right? Unconditionally, truly. Just the way you think that you would love God. And a dog, if you come home and the dog is super excited to see you and, runs up to you and his tail's wagging and all, and you kick the dog, that dog would yelp and all that, and you could see the confusion, right, in the dog. But then the dog would run right back to the owner, because it wouldn't kind of make the connection that owner hurt me and owner doesn't love me. That doesn't exist for that dog. Now, keep kicking the dog and it's a different story, isn't it? You keep kicking the dog, maybe every day you kick the dog, or maybe in succession. I don't know that it would matter. At some point, the dog cowers, the dog is frightened, wants to be away from you. If you keep kicking at the dog, what's the dog going to do? At some point, that dog is going to stand up and fight back, right? The ego is the same exact thing. In the experience of separation, it moved into a state of just pure victimhood. And that's from the space of wanting to get back and wanting to get back. not understanding why this thing happened to it, right? Why it was expelled from, the proverbial Garden of Eden. So it keeps trying and trying, but I love you, but I love you. And then at a certain point, it's more just like, stop. Like, I'm not even going to try to get back to you, but stop hurting me. And then beyond that, if it continues, then the ego stands up and says, that's it. I've had enough. And now I'm going to be the bad guy. I'm going to fight back. So when we see what we really think of as like truly evil in the world, that's really the level that we're looking at. We're looking at an individuated consciousness that has gotten so entrenched in its state of victimhood that it has moved into that self-righteous place that says, I don't need you. I don't want you. I'm better than you, and to hell with you, basically. And so it completely thinks of itself as, I'm self-sufficient. What I say goes, and everything it functions from is all about wanting to hurt the light, right? Rather than wanting to do what's necessary to be received by the light, again, which is where most people sit. Most people, when they listen to their conscience, it's like what they end up coming back to is that whole sense that I want to remerge with God. Now, whether they think that or not doesn't matter, but that's what's going on internally. So when we see evil, that's what we're looking at. And it comes out of, so if I say it that way, now can you see the why behind it? It's not that there's a devil out there, making people bad. It's not that. It's just the ego in all of its pain makes choices, and those choices are made to get it out of pain. And depending on the level of pain and the karma that individual carries, and like just a whole series of stuff, depending on all of that, it may make a choice to purposefully take on a mantle that we would call evil. Are they evil at their core? No, of course not. It's God. It is God. It's the heart that has been completely obstructed by the ego, like completely. There's just, you don't even see the person in there anymore at all. And, you can see that in people. Like, you look at an image of Charles Manson, you can see that in him. He's not there. I was just talking about this at Satsang. Like, he's not there. And normally when you look at pictures, if a person is attuned with their heart, and that doesn't mean they're in their heart all the time, but if they're attuned to it, you can see the light in a person, at least to some degree. They may not light up, but you can see it. But then when you really are looking at someone who's truly functioning from like just an egoic state, and I'm not talking about evil here, but just an egoic state where the awareness of the heart isn't present, that you see, it's like where is he? Where is he in that picture? Like, I can't see him. And this is what happens. So over the course of time and experience and all of that, you have individuations that get stuck in this place that, it appears to be evil. But we have to remember, it always plays its role. So those who are walking it out that way, who have chosen the experience of living out the darkness, they are in service to the rest of us by showing us what that level of darkness is. And by seeing it, we have something to gauge the level of light from, don't we, in this world of opposites? So they're here in service from that place. Now, that can seem very contradictory to people, and people may not like to hear it that way. But that's really what's going on. The gift is always in the challenge, and the gift is always in the ugly in the world. That's where it sits, if we know how to perceive it and how to approach it, and then how to use it. So you know, why is there evil in the world? Well, ultimately, because that seems to be the thing that can instigate the greatest change, especially on a collective level, as quickly as possible, isn't it? If there's only, and people never think about it that way, if there's only what we would consider just good in the world, and I don't mean from the level of the divine, but just good, just basic goodness in the world, what's pushing us to push ourselves to do better? Nothing, right? And people never think about it that way. What happened when Hitler did his thing? It brought the world together, didn't it? It brought the world together. Okay, so if he hadn't done it, would that have happened? No. If the atrocities hadn't happened, would the world have come together the way that it did afterward? No. So you always have to look at what is the gift that this brings, right? And look at it as ultimately a positive thing, even though in the moment it may seem very ugly and negative. In the bigger picture, it's always a positive.